Here we go. CHAPPiE, new film from Neill Blomkamp, the director of District 9 and Elysium. Well, this movie's been getting a lot of hate from, or a lot of criticism, and I just like to start off by saying that while Elysium wasn't so great, I think that this is a pretty good movie, and while I do think it has flaws, I don't think they make it a bad movie. I think it's still a good movie. It just has problems, but a lot of good movies have problems. So I'm gonna talk about that briefly. The movie is about this police robot that gets sentience. There's actually some interesting surprises that I don't want to say too much about, but basically you've got Die Antwoord, this South African rapping group, I guess. I don't really know much about them, but they're in the movie as these gangster characters, and they're just like so freaking weird, but I guess that's like the point. And the movie takes place in Johannesburg, like District 9. And I can see why a lot of people wouldn't like it, because it seems like a lot of the characters in the movie are pretty freaking big assholes, just like really mean. And for example, Hugh Jackman is just like the super evil, like stereotypical, like super religious, or well, maybe not super religious, but like he's like that guy who's like, oh, he likes God and religion and stuff, but it doesn't make him a nice person. And then he's like, saying dear Lord and stuff, but then he's also got like his like soldier background, so like he's kind of like a little bit of a cheesy villain. But the movie had, some of the sentimental parts of the movie are actually, I think, what makes it, so emotional. Like, I think there is a really emotional story here, and I think that maybe some of the over-the-top action maybe could take away from that, or distract from that, but I do think they did a great job making CHAPPiE a character that you can sympathize with and really just, feel for him, because he feels like a real, fleshed out, multi-dimensional character, whereas somebody like Hugh Jackman, his character maybe feels more one-dimensional. But I feel like some of the editing was kind of weird. It cut in weird places. There were parts where I was like, okay, this would be a good place to cut, but then it holds on a shot for not a very, like, no reason, and then other times it'll like cut too early and not hold on a shot where it's like, you think you should have held on that shot. Like, for example, there's a scene where CHAPPIE's with this dog, and I was like, okay, this is like a really emotional part, and it's only like 2 seconds, like with the dog, and then it just cuts like real quick, and we never see that like part again. And it's like, I would have liked to see more of that little scene with CHAPPiE and the dog, but they for some reason cut it real quick, which even though I think the sentimental stuff in the movie is the best part. CHAPPIE's like a really cute robot that you really, you feel bad when he's hurt, and man, almost everybody's mean to him in this movie. So and so I can kind of see why people would have a problem with the tone, because it is kind of, at times it feels almost like E.T., but then other times it's like a crazy R-rated action movie. So I can kind of see where, people would have problems with that, but that didn't bother me. It just, I think, made the movie feel more unique. Like, this was, a lot of people are comparing it to RoboCop, which definitely I mean, there's definitely a RoboCop influence in there, but and of course, not, the original RoboCop is like a classic, and many people have seen it. But I feel like this is, it's different enough, it's unique enough to have its own flavor and not just be, a ripoff, or it does more than pay homage or reference older films. And I gotta say, overall, I really liked it. Well, even regardless of its problems, I think that it's a really well made movie. Like, visually, it's fantastic. The movie cost less than 50 million, and it looks like something that would cost like 200 million. Like, it's just like really impressive. Like, I'm amazed at how realistic the robots look in this movie. And there are movies that cost like, like 4 times this, and they don't look as realistic. So it's just really impressive. And but underneath all that, underneath the surface of visual effects, I think there is a beautiful story in there, and there might be some logic issues that people are having. I've heard that brought up a lot, that it doesn't, some things don't really add up, but I think at its core, it's a good movie, and while it may not be perfect or even necessarily like great or fantastic, it is. I mean, I think it's a much better movie than most people are giving it credit for, and I would love to see it again. There's a lot of things, that are really interesting in the movie. Sort of questions that we ask about consciousness and the soul and all that. And I always find the idea that we are kind of like makers in our own universe. Like, we're kind of the gods of our own universe, but we don't even really know it. And like, the movie kind of explores that a little bit. So, I mean, it's a really interesting movie. I think it's way better than a lot of people are giving it credit for. And it's just really entertaining, and I recommend you go see it. So that concludes my webcam low budget review.